The sun had barely risen when the small shelter sat in silence, broken only by soft, nervous whimpers. 3 creatures huddled together in the corner, their eyes wide with fear. They were not ordinary beings. They were special in their own way, but the world saw them differently. To the humans who ran the shelter, they were defective. They could not reproduce, they could not serve a purpose, and so, they were cast aside. The caretaker, a kind but tired woman, shook her head. "I'm sorry, little ones. Nobody wants you," she whispered, stroking their heads. But even as her hands comforted them, the cold truth remained. They were marked for sale, or worse, permanent abandonment. Outside, a man watched from the dusty road. His name was Daniel, a single father of 2 children. He had seen many things in his life: loss, loneliness, struggle, but something about this small shelter tugged at his heart. He had come for supplies for his children, but he noticed the creatures almost immediately. Their eyes, filled with fear yet a glimmer of hope, seemed to look straight into his soul. Daniel paused. He knew that others might call him foolish, that he might bring trouble into his already complicated life. Yet, he could not turn away. He approached the shelter slowly, his voice soft and steady. "Are they for sale?" he asked. The caretaker nodded reluctantly. "Yes, but no one really wants them. They're sterile, useless. I can lower the price, but I don't think it will matter. They've been here for months, and nobody calls." Daniel felt a pang in his chest. He thought of his children, his 2 little girls who often cried themselves to sleep because of the silence in their small home. Could these creatures, abandoned and rejected by the world, be the answer to the loneliness in their lives? He looked closer. Each one was unique. One had deep, amber eyes that seemed almost human in their intelligence. Another had soft, silver fur that shimmered under the weak morning sun. The last had small wings, delicate and fragile, that trembled slightly whenever someone moved near. They were fragile, yes, but there was something powerful about them, something the world failed to see. The caretaker watched Daniel carefully. "If you take them," she warned, "you're not just taking animals. You're taking responsibility. They require care, patience, and love. Most people cannot handle that." Daniel smiled faintly, his mind already made up. "I can handle it," he said simply. "I have 2 kids. I know about care, patience, and love." Inside, the 3 creatures shifted nervously. They had been abandoned so many times that trust was almost impossible. But there was something about this man, his voice, his presence, even the way his eyes softened as he looked at them, that made them pause. Could he be different? Could he be the one to finally give them a home? As Daniel completed the paperwork, the creatures remained quiet, watching him. Every sound, every step, every movement was measured carefully. They had learned survival the hard way. But now, something in the air was different. The tension, the fear, the sense of impending rejection, somehow, it started to fade, replaced by a tiny spark of hope. Daniel led them outside. The morning sun warmed their backs as they stepped onto the dusty road, leaving the shelter behind. For the first time, they felt the strange, thrilling sensation of freedom. Yet, even as they moved forward, a small part of them remained wary. Would this man truly care for them? Or would they face rejection again, in a new home, with new people? Daniel glanced back at the shelter one last time and then focused on his children waiting at home. The drive would be long, and the journey uncertain, but something in his heart told him it would be worth it. This was more than just an act of kindness, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. Something that would change not only the creatures' lives but his own. And as the shelter disappeared from view, a subtle, almost magical energy seemed to follow them. The creatures lifted their heads slightly, their eyes gleaming with a strange intelligence. Perhaps the world had been wrong about them all along. Perhaps their story had only just begun. The road stretched ahead, dusty and quiet, but Daniel's mind was racing. He stole quick glances at the three creatures in the back seat. They huddled together, wary but curious. The smallest one, with delicate wings, peeked over the seat and flinched when he tried to smile. Daniel sighed softly. He knew trust could not be forced. It had to grow, slowly, one moment at a time. His children, Emma and Liam, waited at home, unaware of the unusual passengers about to enter their lives. Daniel imagined their excitement, but also their surprise. After all, these creatures were unlike anything they had ever seen. He thought of how to introduce them, how to make his children understand that these beings, so fragile yet so extraordinary, were now part of their family. As the car moved forward, a strange sensation filled the air. The smallest creature's wings fluttered nervously, and a soft hum, almost like a whisper, filled the silence. Daniel froze. It was not a sound he had ever heard. The hum grew stronger, rhythmic, as if the creatures were communicating, something he could not yet understand. His heart pounded. Were they trying to warn him? Or were they calling out to each other in a language only they knew? Hours passed, and the world outside the window changed. Dusty plains gave way to dark, thick forests. Shadows twisted under the canopy of trees, and the creature's unease grew. The amber-eyed one glared through the window, its gaze sharp and focused, almost human. It was as if it could sense something Daniel could not. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, feeling an unfamiliar chill in the air. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back. The silver-furred creature had jumped from its seat and landed near Daniel, its body tense and ready. Daniel's heart skipped. "Easy, easy," he whispered, trying to calm it. But the creature's eyes glimmered with an intensity that made him stop mid-sentence. It was not fear. It was alertness. Danger. Then he saw it, a shadow moving swiftly along the edge of the forest. Too fast to be human. Too large to be ordinary. Daniel's pulse quickened. He glanced at the creatures. Their senses were sharper than his own. They were reacting to something he could not yet perceive. And in that moment, he realized they were not just fragile beings. They were survivors. Warriors in their own right. Daniel's mind raced with questions. What if someone followed them? What if these creatures attracted attention that could be dangerous? He had taken a risk by bringing them home, and now the weight of that risk pressed down on him like a heavy stone. The creatures, however, seemed to understand the stakes. They stayed close, their movements synchronized as if they were aware of threats invisible to the human eye. Daniel felt a mix of awe and fear. These beings, once rejected, labeled defective, possessed abilities and awareness beyond anything he had imagined. Hours later, the first lights of his small town appeared on the horizon. Daniel's chest tightened with relief. The danger seemed to recede, at least for now. But he could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The creatures were not ordinary, and the world would soon take notice. The question was, would it be kind notice or cruel? Arriving home, Daniel opened the car doors. His children ran to him, curiosity shining in their eyes. He knelt, gesturing to the back. "Meet our new friends," he said softly. Emma and Liam froze, eyes wide at the sight of the three extraordinary beings. The smallest flapped its wings nervously, while the amber-eyed one tilted its head, studying the children. The silver-furred one padded forward, sniffing the air cautiously. A moment of silence passed. Then Emma reached out her hand. Hesitation. Trust. Connection. The silver-furred creature touched her fingers lightly, and a soft warmth spread through the air, almost like magic. Liam laughed nervously, and the amber-eyed creature's gaze softened, almost smiling. Daniel watched, a swell of hope rising in his chest. That night, as the creatures settled into their new home, a subtle energy filled the rooms. It was not just the warmth of family, it was something more. Something ancient, powerful, waiting to be awakened. Daniel felt it in his bones. These beings were meant to be here, meant to grow alongside his family. But he also knew that the world outside was unaware of the true potential hiding in these defective beings. And not everyone would be kind when they discovered it. As he watched them sleep, Daniel whispered to himself, "We will protect you. No matter what comes." Outside, in the shadows beyond the town, eyes glimmered. Silent, calculating, waiting. The story of the rejected had only just begun. The night settled over Daniel's small home like a heavy blanket, silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves outside. The three creatures had found their spots, curled near the fireplace, on a chair, and one perched lightly on the windowsill. But sleep did not come easy. Every shadow, every whisper of the wind seemed to make them tense, alert. Daniel watched quietly from the kitchen, finishing chores while stealing glances at them. He had thought tonight would be calm, a simple night of settling in. But instinct told him otherwise. There was a strange energy in the air, almost like the forest itself was watching. The smallest creature on the windowsill twitched its wings nervously. Its hum, a soft, vibrating sound, filled the room, and Daniel froze. He didn't understand the language of the creatures, but the warning was clear: something was coming. Outside, the shadows shifted. One moved faster than any animal should, sleek and silent. Its eyes glimmered with a strange, cold light. Daniel's heart thumped as he realized the danger was close. The creature sensed it too, moving instinctively to block him from the door. The amber-eyed one growled low, a sound that seemed impossible from a being so small, yet it vibrated through the walls like a warning bell. Then came the first strike. A branch shattered against the window, startling Emma and Liam awake. Daniel's voice was firm and protective. "Stay inside. Don't come near the door." He moved slowly, positioning himself between the children and the window. The creatures responded immediately. The silver-furred one leaped to the front door, its body glowing faintly in the dim light, almost like a shield. The figure outside paused. Daniel glimpsed it, tall, dark, and shadowed, but moving with a precision and intelligence that was unnerving. It wasn't an ordinary thief, nor an animal. The way it watched, calculating, made him realize this was something, or someone, aware of the creature's true power. His stomach churned. The defective beings he had taken home were not just special, they were rare. Dangerous, if misused. And someone knew it. Inside, the creature's whispers grew louder, their hums forming a rhythm that Daniel could feel in his chest. It was almost musical, yet frightening. The smallest creature's wings spread wide, glowing faintly, and a wave of warmth and light radiated through the room. Shadows near the windows wavered, as if unsure how to respond. Daniel realized with a chill, these beings were not only defenseless, they were warriors in waiting. The dark figure outside lunged suddenly. Daniel's instinct kicked in. He grabbed a heavy kitchen lamp and swung it toward the intruder, but the creature at the door moved faster. A pulse of energy, light, strong, and sharp, erupted, knocking the figure backward. The force rattled the walls, leaving a faint scorch mark on the wooden door. Daniel stumbled but caught himself, eyes wide. He had underestimated them. The creatures were more than companions. They were protectors. Emma clung to Daniel, whispering, "Dad, they're amazing." Liam nodded, wide-eyed, as the silver-furred creature returned to its post near the door, glowing faintly, wings folded but ready. The amber-eyed one sat quietly, its gaze scanning the shadows outside. There was no fear in their eyes, only focus, precision, and readiness. Daniel understood something important in that moment. These beings were rejected for being defective, but they were anything but. The world had been blind to their potential. And now, whatever waited outside had discovered it too. The night dragged on with tension thick in the air. The intruder did not retreat completely but stayed hidden in the darkness, circling, watching, calculating. Daniel knew this was only the beginning. Whatever this was, it had come for the creatures, and it would not leave until it got them. Yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, a bond solidified. Daniel realized that family was more than blood. It was trust, protection, and courage in the face of danger. And for the first time, the creatures seemed to accept him not just as a caretaker, but as a leader, a human who would fight alongside them, no matter the odds. As the first light of dawn peeked through the trees, the intruder finally vanished into the forest, leaving only traces of its presence, broken branches, deep footprints, and an unshakable sense of watchfulness. Daniel exhaled, exhausted but determined. The creatures settled again, their hums fading into soft breathing. Daniel whispered to them, "We survived the night. But this is only the start. We will face it together." Outside, beyond the forest, eyes gleamed in the shadows. The world had started noticing the defective beings. And now, the hunt had begun. Morning light barely warmed the small house when Daniel stepped outside, coffee in hand, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the forest line. Last night's attack had shaken him, yet it had also ignited something fierce inside him. The creatures were more than companions, they were family. And family deserved protection. Inside, Emma and Liam were awake early, watching as the creatures moved with a strange rhythm, almost like a silent language. The silver-furred one padded across the floor, its tail flicking in a way that seemed like a warning. The smallest, wings fluttering, perched on the windowsill, humming softly. Even the amber-eyed one stretched, its gaze sharp and calculating, as if mapping every inch of their surroundings. Daniel knew he could not ignore the danger. Whoever had come for them would return. They were no ordinary beings. And now, the world outside, curious, greedy, or cruel, would notice too. Suddenly, a rustle from the edge of the trees drew Daniel's attention. His heart pounded. The intruder, or someone like it, was back. He crouched, signaling the children to stay inside, and called softly to the creatures. The amber-eyed one responded immediately, moving toward the edge of the yard, eyes glowing faintly. Then it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and silent, moving with unnatural speed. Daniel's breath caught. This was not just a thief. This was something, engineered, precise, and dangerous. The creature froze, waiting for the right moment. Daniel noticed the glint of metal in its hands, devices he had never seen before, pulsing faintly with energy. The silver-furred creature stepped forward, low growl rumbling like distant thunder. Its fur shimmered, almost like liquid light, and Daniel realized it wasn't just a warning, it was a shield. The intruder lunged, and the creatures reacted instantly. The silver-furred one leaped, creating a wall of radiant energy that knocked the figure backward. The smallest one's wings flared, sending a sudden pulse through the air, disorienting the intruder further. Daniel's mind raced. These beings, once defective, were extraordinary. And he had underestimated the power they held. He grabbed a sturdy branch from the yard, ready to defend his family, but the creatures were faster, smarter, stronger. They were not just surviving, they were fighting back. Emma and Liam watched in awe from the doorway, eyes wide. "Dad, look at them," Emma whispered. Liam nodded, gripping his father's hand. Fear mixed with wonder. Daniel felt it too, a surge of pride and disbelief. The creatures that the world had discarded as useless were now standing between his family and danger, showing courage, intelligence, and strength that humans rarely possessed. The intruder paused, seemingly calculating. Daniel could see hesitation in its movements. Whatever it was, it had never encountered beings like these before. The creatures, sensing its uncertainty, advanced together, synchronized, almost like a single entity with three bodies. Light, energy, and wings moved as one, a display of coordination and power that left Daniel breathless. Then, as quickly as it began, the intruder retreated, vanishing into the shadows of the forest. The creatures lowered their defenses, but the tension lingered. Daniel exhaled slowly. He knew it was not the last encounter. Whoever, or whatever, had come for the creatures would return, stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. Daniel turned to the children. "They're safe, for now," he said, but even as he spoke, he felt a cold realization settle in. Their lives had changed forever. These creatures, once abandoned and labeled defective, had brought new challenges, new dangers, but also new hope. They were extraordinary. And Daniel understood, fully, that the story of their family had only begun. That night, the creatures gathered near the fireplace. The amber-eyed one studied Daniel intently, its gaze sharp but calm, almost as if it was analyzing him, deciding whether he was worthy. The smallest hummed softly, wings folded neatly, its tiny body radiating warmth. The silver-furred one curled at Daniel's feet, protective yet watchful. Daniel knelt, gently touching their heads. "We're together," he whispered. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Outside, beyond the forest, eyes glimmered again, cold and calculating. Shadows shifted. The world had started noticing the defective ones. But now, the stakes had risen. Whoever was watching would not leave easily. And Daniel, along with his extraordinary family, would have to face a darkness far greater than he had imagined. The night deepened, filled with quiet hums, protective glows, and an unspoken promise. The creatures had found a home, but danger had found them too. And the fight for survival, trust, and recognition, the fight to prove that the defective were far from powerless, had only just begun. The next morning dawned cold and gray. The air carried a strange heaviness, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Daniel had barely slept, his mind replaying last night's events. The intruder had vanished, but the feeling of being watched lingered like a shadow across the yard. Emma and Liam stayed close to him as he went outside. The creatures followed, alert, moving as if sensing danger invisible to human eyes. Daniel realized the truth: this was no ordinary threat. Whoever had targeted them was patient, calculating, and determined. And the defective beings he had taken home were the key to something much bigger. Suddenly, a low, vibrating hum filled the air. It came from the smallest creature, its wings vibrating rapidly, the soft glow of its body intensifying. Daniel's heart thumped. The forest ahead was moving, something huge, dark, and fast. Branches snapped violently, and leaves swirled like a storm. The intruder, or intruders, were returning, and this time, they were not alone. The amber-eyed creature crouched low, muscles tensed like springs. Its eyes glowed with intelligence that was almost human. The silver-furred one flared its energy, fur shimmering brightly, sending a wave of light through the yard. Daniel felt the warmth, the power, but he also felt the danger closing in. He grabbed a nearby branch, ready to defend his family. Then they emerged. Figures, tall, armored, moving with mechanical precision, stormed out of the forest. Their eyes glowed red, scanning, calculating. Daniel froze for a moment. These were no ordinary humans. They were enhanced, engineered, designed to hunt. And they had come for the creatures. The silver-furred creature leaped forward, a radiant shield erupting from its body, pushing the attackers back. The smallest one hovered, wings flaring, sending pulses of energy that knocked several assailants to the ground. The amber-eyed one darted with blinding speed, striking with claws sharper than steel, moving with precision and strength that left Daniel breathless. Daniel shouted to the children, "Stay behind me. Don't come out." He swung the branch, but he realized quickly that he was useless in comparison. These creatures, the ones the world had called defective, were the real warriors. And they were fighting for their home, for their new family, with a courage and power Daniel had never seen. The battle raged for what felt like hours, though in reality, it was only minutes. The forest echoed with the sounds of energy pulses, metallic clangs, and creatures' hums that resonated deep in the chest. Daniel noticed something extraordinary: the creatures were not just reacting, they were learning. Every strike from the intruders was countered with greater skill. Every attack was anticipated. Emma and Liam watched from the doorway, fear and awe battling in their eyes. "Dad, they're amazing," Liam whispered. Daniel nodded, pride swelling in his chest. He realized the truth: the world had been blind. These beings, abandoned for being sterile and useless, were not only alive, they were extraordinary. They had strength, intelligence, and resilience beyond anything humans could imagine. The intruders hesitated. They had not expected resistance like this. And Daniel knew it: they were about to retreat, not because they were defeated, but because they had underestimated the bond between the humans and the creatures. As the attackers vanished into the forest, the creatures gathered around Daniel and the children. Their hums softened, wings folded, and glowing energy faded to a gentle shimmer. Daniel knelt, touching each one. "You protected us, you protected your home," he whispered. "I'm proud of you." The creatures responded in their own way: a soft hum, a nudge, a flicker of light. Trust had grown. Respect had grown. And for the first time, Daniel understood that this was no ordinary family. They were a team. Warriors, protectors, and survivors, united not by blood, but by courage, loyalty, and love. That night, as the forest whispered outside, Daniel sat quietly with the creatures at his feet. The danger had not ended, he knew. The intruders would return, stronger and smarter. But he also knew this: the beings called Defective were far from weak. And together, they were unstoppable. In the shadows beyond the trees, red eyes glimmered, calculating, waiting. The world had begun to notice the extraordinary. But it had no idea what it was up against. And Daniel, standing between his children and his extraordinary family, felt a surge of determination. No one would take them. Not the world, not the shadows, not anyone. They would fight. They would survive. And they would prove that the so-called defective were the most powerful of all. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. Daniel sat by the fireplace, eyes scanning the forest beyond his small home. His children slept peacefully, unaware of the dangers that lingered in the shadows. But the creatures did not rest. The amber-eyed one prowled near the window, muscles tensed, eyes glowing faintly. The silver-furred one curled near the doorway, its body shimmering softly. And the smallest, wings folded tightly, hummed a low vibration, as if listening to whispers no human could hear. Daniel had begun to realize something terrifying. The intruders were not acting alone. There was someone, or something, pulling the strings, watching their every move. Whoever this hidden enemy was, they were patient, intelligent, and ruthless. Hours passed. The wind carried a strange scent, metallic and sharp. Daniel felt it first, a faint disturbance in the air. The creature stiffened, and the smallest flared its wings slightly, sending a ripple of energy through the room. The amber-eyed one hissed softly, a warning that made Daniel's blood run cold. Suddenly, a shadow slipped across the yard, faster than anything Daniel had seen before. It was silent, precise, and deadly. The intruders had returned, but they were different this time. Smarter. Coordinated. They moved as if guided by a hidden force, one that could anticipate every move of the creatures. The silver-furred creature exploded into action, a radiant shield of light pushing several attackers back. The amber-eyed one darted forward, claws flashing, striking with precision that left Daniel breathless. The smallest hovered, wings beating rapidly, sending out pulses of energy that knocked enemies off balance. But something was wrong. For the first time, the creatures hesitated. They sensed the hidden enemy's presence, a power they could not yet see or fully understand. Daniel gripped the nearest chair, ready to fight, but he knew he was no match. The creatures were the true guardians, and he had to trust them completely. Then the hidden enemy revealed itself. From the shadows emerged a tall figure, cloaked in darkness, its face obscured. Its eyes glowed a chilling red, and an aura of power radiated from it, making the intruders pause. Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. This being was not just human. It was something else, ancient, intelligent, and far stronger than anything he had imagined. "You have something that belongs to me," the figure said, voice low and commanding. Every word carried weight, echoing in the forest like a warning. The creatures stiffened, but did not retreat. Daniel realized in that moment that they had faced rejection, danger, and fear, yet their courage was unshakable. The amber-eyed one stepped forward, eyes blazing. The silver-furred one flared its radiant shield, and the smallest spread its wings wide, humming with energy. Daniel watched in awe as the three beings, once labeled defective, formed a circle of light and power. They were ready to face the hidden enemy, not as victims, but as warriors. A battle unlike any Daniel had imagined began. Energy pulses collided with the enemy's aura, sending shocks through the yard. Trees shook. The ground trembled. Daniel's heart raced as he watched his extraordinary family fight with strength, intelligence, and courage beyond human limits. The hidden enemy struck with precision, but the creatures adapted faster, moving as one. Every strike was countered, every attack anticipated. Daniel realized the truth: the so-called defective ones were not only survivors, they were masters of strategy, protectors who could outthink and overpower almost anything. Hours passed, but the battle did not end. Exhaustion tugged at Daniel, at the children, even at the creatures. Yet, amidst the chaos, a bond grew stronger. They were more than a family, they were a unit. And for the first time, Daniel felt something powerful: hope. The hidden enemy paused, seemingly impressed. "This is not over," it hissed, retreating into the shadows. Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him. The danger was not gone, but they had survived. Together. As the night faded into dawn, Daniel looked at the creatures, his guardians, his family. "We've faced darkness," he whispered. "And we're still here. Together." The amber-eyed one blinked slowly, wings and fur glowing faintly, as if acknowledging his words. The silver-furred one nuzzled his hand softly, and the smallest hummed a gentle, melodic note that filled the room with warmth. Outside, the forest was quiet again, but Daniel knew the hidden enemy would return. And when it did, they would be ready, not just to survive, but to fight, to protect, and to prove that the rejected, the abandoned, and the underestimated could be the strongest of all. The night had tested them, but it had also revealed something extraordinary: the power of unity, courage, and the human heart. And in that quiet moment, Daniel understood the truth that would guide them all: the defective ones were never weak. They were unstoppable. The forest was silent that morning, yet tension lingered like a storm cloud. Daniel and his children moved cautiously outside, the creatures close by, alert and ready. The hidden enemy had not shown itself in days, but Daniel knew better. Danger did not vanish, it was waiting, watching, planning. Emma and Liam stayed close, holding hands with their father. The creatures moved with silent precision, eyes scanning every shadow, every movement. The smallest hovered slightly above the ground, wings shimmering, emitting a soft hum that seemed to pulse with energy. The amber-eyed one prowled near the edge of the yard, sharp and calculating. The silver-furred one glowed faintly, radiating a protective aura that Daniel could feel in his chest. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the trees. Daniel froze. From the forest emerged the hidden enemy, taller, stronger, more formidable than ever. But this time, it did not come alone. Dozens of mechanical figures followed, circling like predators, their red eyes gleaming with cold intent. Daniel's heart pounded. The odds seemed impossible. Yet, he did not hesitate. He looked at the creatures, once abandoned, once called defective, and knew they were not alone. Together, they were unstoppable. The battle began with blinding intensity. The silver-furred one unleashed a radiant shield that knocked multiple enemies backward. The amber-eyed one moved faster than the eye could follow, striking with precision and speed. The smallest sent pulses of energy into the air, waves of light that disoriented the mechanical attackers. Daniel held the children close, watching in awe. He realized something incredible: the creatures were not just defending, they were strategizing. Every movement was calculated, every strike purposeful. They communicated without words, a seamless flow of energy and instinct. Daniel felt a surge of pride. These beings, rejected by the world, were more than extraordinary, they were heroes. The hidden enemy advanced, but the creatures were ready. The amber-eyed one leapt high, striking with claws that glowed with a faint, supernatural light. The smallest hovered above, wings beating furiously, creating waves of energy that pushed attackers back. The silver-furred one surged forward, a radiant wave of light enveloping the yard, leaving Daniel breathless. Daniel knew he could not fight like this, but he did not need to. His role was to protect his children, to guide them safely, and to trust in the power of the beings he had taken home. And he did, completely. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Sparks flew, energy pulsed, and the ground trembled. But the hidden enemy's confidence faltered. It had underestimated the bond between human and defective beings. Every attack it launched was countered, every move anticipated. The creatures were unstoppable, united by trust, courage, and loyalty. Finally, with a surge of combined energy, the creatures unleashed a force so powerful that the mechanical attackers scattered, retreating into the forest. The hidden enemy stumbled back, its red eyes blazing with fury, but could not approach further. For the first time, it hesitated, seeing that the defective beings were far beyond its control. Daniel exhaled deeply, his chest swelling with relief and pride. His children ran to the creatures, hugging and laughing, while the creatures responded with gentle touches, hums, and flickers of glowing light. The battle was over, for now. The hidden enemy vanished into the shadows, leaving a faint echo of warning. Daniel knew it could return, but he was no longer afraid. They had survived, and more importantly, they had proven that courage, love, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. As the sun rose, casting golden light over the small yard, Daniel looked at his extraordinary family. The creatures, once abandoned, once called defective, stood proudly, radiant and strong. Emma and Liam smiled, their laughter filling the morning air. Daniel knelt, touching each creature's head gently. "You were never defective," he whispered. "You were heroes all along." And in that quiet moment, Daniel understood the truth that had been growing inside him: the world often rejects what it does not understand, underestimates what it cannot see. But the strongest, the most courageous, and the most extraordinary beings are those who rise from rejection, who survive against all odds, and who fight not for power, but for love, family, and hope. The creatures hummed softly, wings folded, eyes glowing faintly. Daniel knew they were ready for whatever came next, and so was he. Together, they had rewritten the rules. Together, they were unstoppable. Outside, the forest returned to silence, but a new energy lingered, a promise of adventure, courage, and unity. The story of the rejected had ended in triumph. And the story of the heroes had only just begun.